Let me sort of do this. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I think we're live.
Oh, yeah.
Are we?
Oh.
Can we hear you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you really well.
Can you hear? Okay.
You sound great.
I think I can hear you.
You sound really good.
Do you?
Hello.
Do I? All right. So you're on the control room right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. And, yeah, there's Dave. There you are right now. With your bottle of whiskey. You look like, or scotch, you look like Pap from Huck Finn.
Nice.
You
Floating
do.
down a river, playing cards, with a bunch of dead dudes.
You do. Exactly. I know. So you're joining me here tonight.
All right.
And I can see if anybody's watching, but it doesn't appear that anybody is. So, yeah, this is the stream. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. Yesterday was your birthday.
Yeah, it was.
It was a big day. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. This is so. I've never had I haven't had a guest on this show since 2011. You know what who my last guest was? I think
Probably me.
was actually no. You have been on this show a few times, haven't you? Yeah, no, you have
2 or 3 times.
Well, I think the last. I think Kevin Van Heining. I interviewed him.
Oh, that would have been a good one.
Yeah, and I interviewed Jonathan Sweat. Oh, remember Mark Trammell?
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember Mark. He was the...
we did that one about well.
Yeah. That was back in 2011. So really, yeah. It's so weird because, like, every podcast in the history of the world does interviews. Like, that's what all the podcast channels who tell you about how to do your podcast, that's what they want you to do is, like, you know, they want you to have exciting guests. That's usually, like, the number one advice they give you is just have exciting guests. Like, if you want an exciting podcast, you got to have exciting guests. And, like,
you're not exciting on your own.
I know I'm not exciting enough on my own. I have nothing interesting to say. Apparently,
that reminds me of those old stupid English those English class things where they'd say, like, no, you're not qualified to actually write criticisms of literature, but you have to, like, take other people's criticisms from these books and put them into your own words, but also don't plagiarize. It's like, well, I don't really know what the I'm doing at this point. I mean, what am I supposed to do?
Did they teach you? When did you learn about plagiarizing? About
I heard the first time I ever heard about it was some teacher was like, I was probably in about 7th grade or something. We had to write these book reports, and some kid, and I didn't know how to write a book report. I never even heard of really what that meant. So I just went to the library and copied down the book. Yeah, you know, in something of an abbreviated way. But the teacher was a couple of days later. The teacher was reading them and just started attacking some kid for plagiarizing. It's like, plagiarizing.
So you never heard that word before then?
No.
Okay.
I don't even know what the root word of that is. But anyway, the teacher was going nuts about this kid, and I'm like, oh crap, I did the same thing.
So like, yeah, as a teacher, it's really, really difficult to actually teach what plagiarizing is, because a lot of kids, they hear that term because it's really hard to say it in a way that makes it sound innocuous. Like, it's a really bad word. It's like hearing the C word for the first time. You don't know what it means, but you know it's bad, right?
Plagiarize.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that sounds like you could go to jail.
Yeah, exactly. So,
You?
what was that?
It's me, but the thing's not lighting up.
Oh, weird. Yeah, so a student of mine asked me, you know, really what I consider plagiarizing, and I was like, well, that plagiarizing is simply taking somebody else's thoughts and words and putting them into your own. Oh. And they're like, well, I mean, clearly I'm not going to be writing original thoughts. And I said, well, that's the idea. Hopefully you are. And he says, well, what if I write my own thoughts down and they turn out to be somebody else's?
I know. See, that was the thing.
Yeah.
It was always there was a lot of conflict with that because, you know, the whole thing was like, if I'm not qualified to have my own thoughts as per that teacher, all I can do is take these other people's thoughts. Yeah. And so it was always a disconnect with what she was asking. It just sounded like, she was saying, disguise your shit enough to where nobody can tell. I don't know what she was asking. I don't know.
Well, I told my student, that's a really good point you have. What if you put thoughts down and they turn out to be somebody else's? And most likely it's really difficult, the further we get into human history, to have original thoughts. But if that happens, if you write down somebody's thoughts and they turn out, and you don't know that they're somebody else's thoughts, then that's not plagiarizing. Okay. That's just like, interpreting the world in a similar way that somebody else has. But if you take somebody's exact words and put them down on a paper and pass them in as your own, that is plagiarizing. There's no getting around it. And then the student, being a student, said, well, what if I accidentally write somebody else's exact words down and not know it?
Well, it's funny because we've had so many exact words written down. It's easy to get close. That 700 monkeys typing on 700 typewriters thing.
Yeah, but you've only got 20 monkeys that you're teaching, and most likely, if you ask them to write a paper about technology and Fahrenheit 451, they're not going to come up with anything original. But they are going to make the same exact spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes and things like that. Right. So, so it's really like in my English class, I kind of taught, I told the students that plagiarism is the same as pornography. I'll know it when I see it. So,
yeah. Well, it happens in music too.
Right.
There's only so many chords and so many notes.
Right. Like, what are some famous, like Pink Floyd, didn't they steal? Where are you telling me about Pink Floyd, like, accidentally stole something from someone? I don't know.
George Harrison famously had a song called My Sweet Lord that somehow he was, like, sued successfully by, was it the Supremes or something like that? For He's So Fine. For the My Sweet Lord, baby,
and see, that's so interesting to me, because that you could almost like argue that that's like parody or satire or something, which is like something that the Beatles were known to do. Right?
Yeah, well, it's somehow they were able to prove in court, and he actually came up with another song, kind of in a little bit of a answer to that, called This Song, and this is on like the maybe early mid '70s or something, but yeah, that was a situation where that happened. Led Zeppelin gets lots and lots of accusations of plagiarizing. Yeah. They stole from the old bluesmen quite a bit.
The old bluesmen?
Yeah, the old blues persons. They stole all kinds of stuff, and to the point where they had to go back and on subsequent releases of albums include the blues person's name along with theirs for the writing credits. Yeah. All kinds of riffs, things like that. Yeah. Even Stairway to Heaven, even though they didn't win the case, but a group called Spirit sued Led Zeppelin for stealing the beginning to Stairway to Heaven.
Okay.
And when you hear Spirit sing, it's like, yeah, that's kind of it, But then it's also like a very common musical kind of a thing that dates back to like Bach and Beethoven and whatnot. So, music's recycled quite a bit.
Yeah, it's very odd. Like, when do you call something an homage and when do you call it, just plain ripping off? Like, I know Vanilla Ice very famously tried to say that he was not at all inspired by David Bowie and Queen's bass line for Under Pressure.
Yeah, but he had that one extra beat
that completely made it different.
He had boom 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 boom, something like that. But somehow,
and it is completely different, I guess, technically.
Yeah, well, it was enough to where like somehow he had to like end up buying the rights to Under Pressure.
Right. Oh, did he really? I didn't know that.
But and I'm not sure the whole story, but boo hoo hoo. Now I own the rights to Queen's Under Pressure. So
he must actually have made a pretty good living on it, because that song has been used in countless movie trailers, commercials.
Yeah.
I mean, people know Under Pressure a lot more than they did when Vanilla Ice, I think, probably released that song. Because, I know that Under Pressure wasn't really necessarily an obscure song, but it wasn't played like on the radio, and it wasn't a big like radio hit. And then And then around the early 2000s, it started to be used in everything. It was like Baba O'Reilly by The Who. It was just used in like commercials, movie trailers, and it suddenly became like very overplayed.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Like a lot of classic rock.
On their greatest hits.
What, Baba O'Reilly?
No, Under Pressure.
Oh, Under Pressure.
Queen's greatest hits.
Yeah.
And it's one of those ones where Queen's a really awesome greatest hits band, but a deep dive into Queen can be trying.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Queen is one of those bands that everybody like sort of knows, like 10 songs.
When they're on, they're on.
Well, it's like Creedence Clearwater Revival. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they have everybody that I knew in high school had Creedence Clearwater Revival's like best of CD with like 15 songs on it.
Yeah.
And any additional Creedence is really like not really required. You kind of get it's like, and I think it's just because, yeah, it's like you hear those. I mean, they're 15 songs, but they're 15 monster hits.
Yeah.
I got interested the other day in like John Cougar Mellencamp's back catalog. Like, what are some John Mellencamp songs I have not heard? And there's not a lot of them.
Same about Lee Greenwood.
Yeah, there's not a lot of them. They're just like. So here's something interesting that I found out. Okay, so off track. So John Cougar Mellencamp was one of the guys who founded Farm Aid.
Yeah,
like back in the mid '90s. So I think 1990,
even mid '80s.
Mid '80s.
Farm Aid, I think they had like Farm Aid and Live Aid. I think those were like
the same time.
Kind of maybe 85, 86.
Okay, explain to me how this makes sense. The Jerry Lewis telethon. One show, one year made $60 million. The Jerry Lewis telethon, $60 million, one telethon. I was looking on Wikipedia the other day. It said that since Farm Aid's first show, I guess this must have been in the mid 80s, all the way up until 2023, and they do this like every year. It's raised $60 million. $60 million in like 40 years.
Wow.
Versus like $60 million for one Jerry Lewis telethon.
Yeah, my guess is country musicians do a lot of coke.
That's what I'm saying. It's like $60 million. I mean, like,
well, it's not really a telethon. I don't think people call in and donate.
But it's not. But it's still. You think in 40 years they would have made like more money than
be like, $10 million a year.
Yeah, $60 million in 40 years is nothing.
Well,
they should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah. Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Is that something they do every year? Because I'm completely unaware.
I don't know. Do they do Farm Aid every year? Maybe not. Maybe I was wrong.
I only remember it like when I was a tiny little kid. Sort of being it became like really cool for all the rock and roll guys to like, get together and have some kind of cause, like feeding African kids or
stop it,
or having hands across America. And things like that. This
will be a good time to test the browser here.
Okay. And Farm Aid kind of came along. They had, I guess, the more sort of heart of America styled musicians, maybe Bruce Springsteen. John Cougar Mellencamp was like prime material for that.
So they still do Farm Aid. Yeah, this year it's
really
September 23rd, 2023. So it's coming up.
Who's all in it now?
I don't know. That's Willie Nelson.
Oh my God!
It's in Nobleville, Indiana, because John Cougar Mellencamp lives in Indiana.
Yeah, he was always famously from Indiana.
Yeah.
I
the lineup.
No idea. This used to be big news, like a big new. Also, a shuttle launch was big.
I know it would be like them having a Live Aid every year. Okay, so Willie Nelson and family, Neil Young, John Mellencamp, Dave Matthews.
Ooh, I know who's not going to be there.
Who?
we lost.
Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine working in a Mexican restaurant tonight?
Ooh, Lord.
Anywhere in America.
Oh my God. What's that
That's
third
gonna be terrible.
margarita kicks in.
No.
Oh my God.
It would be like all the Cinco de Mayos from the last 8 years put together. Okay. So
I can't say I know another Jimmy Buffett song.
So there's Margaritaville, there's Cheeseburger in Paradise.
Oh, okay. That's
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Is that a Jimmy Buffett song, or is that just a quote he has?
I don't know.
Because he has like a lot of quotes.
Oh, he does.
Yeah. So how much has Farm Aid made over the years?
Mike's looking on the internet.
Farm Aid. They can see it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And nobody's watching, but it's okay.
That's all right.
Okay, look at this. Since 1985, Farm Aid has raised more than $70 million. That's all. Like, charity's charity, but that's kind of ridiculous. That's not a lot of money at all. Yeah.
I mean, you think since, and assuming they've done it every year,
Yeah.
you think it'd be at least $10 million a year.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, like, that's what I'm saying is that, like, I heard a statistic the other day that, like, in one Jerry Lewis telethon, he used to do those telethons were for kids with muscular dystrophy. And, yeah, like, I mean, he would raise, I mean, this is just people watching television, calling in one day made $60 million. And over the course of 40 years, since 1985, where's all that money going? Because I know that they charge tickets. A lot of people pay to go to this thing.
Who goes to it? I'm not sure.
People call in. You can donate on the website and all that stuff. Like, the money has got to be going, I guess, to pay for the musicians who you would think would not take the money. They would do it for free. Like, that's what happened with Live Aid. Nobody made any money from Live Aid.
I think it would be like maybe we'll pay your travel and expenses and maybe a little bit of a love offering or something. But I don't know.
Yeah. But I just thought that was a like an offensively paltry sum of money.
It is. I'd like to imagine all the farmers kind of lined up in their overalls, saying with their hats in their hands, saying,
"Where's our money?
Thank you, Willie.
Thank you, Mr. Mellencamp."
Thanks, Mr. Mellencamp. I need new tires.
Yeah, I heard an interview that John Mellencamp did like a couple weeks ago with Bill Maher, and John Mellencamp made Bill Maher seem like Santa Claus, like have the positivity of Santa Claus. John Mellencamp is probably the most cynical person I've ever heard.
Really?
He literally said that, like, he doesn't believe that anything at all that the government says. And Bill Maher is just like, well, wait a second.
Oh my Lord.
He's like, Bill Maher's argument is that, like, 90% of the government is like pencil pushing nerds that just sit behind desks in cubicles and they eat bad pizza and they just crunch numbers all day long.
Yeah.
And like, so the government, it's impossible for them to, like, I mean, they probably lie and they probably, like, smudge the facts sometimes, but generally with, like, things like, highway death statistics, like the amount of people that died on the highways last Labor Day and things like that. The government compiles all that data, and it's probably they're not lying to you about that. And John Cougar Mellencamp's like, no, they're lying to you about that. Yeah, it was really, But I looked up John Cougar Mellencamp, and the guy is like 70 years old. He's been married or been in relationships like 8 or 9 times. He's got like 5 kids, which is fine. I mean, it's normal to have 5 children. But, but he lives on a 70-acre estate in Indiana,
Oh my God.
completely blocked off from all of humanity. Like, he never really sees the normal world at all. But he sings about it a lot. So
There was he was a voice back in the day. I mean,
He was.
kind of had a, sort of a prideful, outlook about the positivity in America. I hate that it's turned into such a negative kind of a cynicism.
Well, he told the story that Barack Obama asked him to play. Like, he played at Barack Obama's inauguration back in 2008, and a couple years later, Barack Obama's president for a couple of years, and he asked John Cougar Mellencamp to play at some campaign rally that he's having for like 2012. Mellencamp refuses because he says that Barack Obama is not liberal enough.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. It's like, apparently, like, John Cougar Mellencamp is like left of Stalin. That's like that was kind of amazing to me. But anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a cool vibe, you know. His song lyrics always evoke kind of this, you know, look back to a more simpler America.
Yeah.
And just like, didn't we have it great back in the old days? I'm not sure what his old days were. The 60s. You know,
they were
same thing as Bryan Adams, kind of summer of '69.
Yeah. Well, here's what I think Mellencamp's entire career boils down to. I think that he was a child of the 60s. He was raised by an incredibly wealthy family in Indiana. He came from no poverty. He was not Jack and Diane.
Oh, okay.
And I think his dad was an executive for, you know, a major company. I forgot what his dad did, but his dad was a major an executive for a major company in the 1960s, and so he grew up in great privilege. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that or anything, but I think that he was very much just like a guy who was, you know, rebelling in the 60s because it was kind of the trendy, cool thing to do. And I think like he realized that there was a niche in rock music that he could fill in the late 80s following the success of like Bruce Springsteen.
He would be more in the early 80s.
Well, yeah, early 80s. But I think like what happened is that Bruce Springsteen had kind of come out and created the sort of like, you know, guy like the you know, I don't know, rock.
Sort of had this blue collar.
Yeah, rock punk, blue collar.
We're all getting together at the bar after work. After
Yeah,
we get off at the mill.
But also very much singing about like post-Vietnam, you know, cynicism, you know, with your government, and kind of trying to like Bruce Springsteen's music is very much evocative of kind of like lost optimism and things like that. And I think John Cougar Mellencamp filled this niche. He saw this like area that he could like, you know, fill. He was like, I'm gonna kind of appeal to people who like Bruce Springsteen, but I'm gonna give people a little bit more hope. And I think that's like, I think that's what Mellencamp had to offer. And I think he was to an extent the genuine article. But unlike Springsteen, he wasn't as strong of a songwriter. He didn't have as strong of a band backing him up. And I think he was kind of a one-trick pony. And it was a great thing that he did, founding Farm Aid. You know, he obviously attached himself to issues the same way Springsteen did. But when I kind of look back on Mellencamp, I sort of see him as just this poor one-trick pony imitation.
I might be wrong
of
about
Springsteen.
This, and it might be Bruce Springsteen, but I think it was John Cougar Mellencamp that actually had the first MTV video that was shot on 35mm film.
Which one was it?
The one about USA.
ROCK in the USA?
I don't know what the song titles. I don't even know what the song is. It Jack and Diane? Is that a song
Jack and Diane's a song.
It's one of those ones, and I might be wrong about that. Look it up and check me on that, because it might be Bruce Springsteen.
Okay.
But I think it was John Cougar Mellencamp.
Yeah.
And it's a cool video, if I remember. Just sort of, it reminds me of just some sort of like a 70s National Geographic, you know, maybe around the bicentennial.
Yeah. So is it?
It's like a look at, you know, life across America kind of thing.
Okay. So like Jack and Diane.
I don't think it's going to be Jack and Diane. It's probably going to be something like whichever one has little pink houses in it.
Oh yeah, that the song is called Little Pink Houses.
Oh, that was an MTV promo back in the day.
Oh, was it?
The MTV apparently was going to give away like a pink house.
Really?
To people that wrote in.
Yeah.
And then fly all your friends in, and John Cougar Mellencamp was going to like play in your front yard.
Seriously?
And I think the idea was that they ended up building all that on like a Superfund site or something, because the land was cheap. There's some kind of controversy about that, but
so they built a pink house on top of like on top of a bunch of pollution and everything.
Some kind of like, I don't know, skateboarding kid won it.
Really? Oh man, look at that.
Oh yeah, it is. Look how beautiful that video is. Mike's looking at a
oh wait a second. Oh, I'm also playing Warren Zevon at the same time.
Also, the music doesn't quite fit the imagery of a confused guy on a front porch with Warren Zevon, but it kind of works in its own artistic way.
Yeah. Yeah, so
they're really
yeah, when I hear
trying
this
hard.
song on the radio, I don't really think about like an old sharecropper guy.
Yeah, he's a real confused.
On a porch.
Just like almost Stanley Kubrick levels of confusion.
So they played this on MTV.
Dude, yes, absolutely they did.
Can you imagine MTV today
Showing a video?
showing
No, I
this
can't.
video with like an old African American man sitting on a porch while some
on a
white
covered
guy sings
bridge.
about him?
Look at that train go by.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they shot that. That was a kind of a large budget video that had great production quality, because early
Yeah.
MTV videos were almost like the remnants and artifacts of the editing process that they just kind of jumbled together with some chroma key and
Right.
whatnot. And this is kind of a little step into some narrative and some kind of a bit of a cinematic message and look.
Yeah.
Some kind of a lifestyle that's long gone. A little bit of probably even like a Thomas Kincaid look at America.
I was gonna say, because yeah, Thomas Kincaid was a guy who kind of like Mellencamp really saw a whole niche that needed to be filled of just people who were really nostalgic for times gone by.
Oh yeah, even if the times were kind of fictitious.
Exactly. They didn't care if it was fictitious. They just wanted it really bad.
Yeah, there's only a couple of old days I want to see every old day I can in a Bill and Ted kind of a way, where I see it for a few hours and then split. But living in the old days, there's only a couple of old days I really want to live in.
Right.
And that would be from like 78 to about 82.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, because look, he's like just two-stepping.
He looks like he's in the Wizard of Oz.
He
doesn't
does. And, like the poppy. That was
Yeah.
Interstate 65 that they just showed. Look at that.
Junction. So that's
60
probably, that's
that-
in Gary, Indiana.
100%
We're up in
Indiana.
Indiana.
It's so weird to me that you can jump on I-65 in Birmingham, Alabama, and be in Gary, Indiana, in like about 6-7 hours.
Yeah. It goes almost. It doesn't go to Chicago, but it gets you pretty close.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it 100%. I think it actually does take you all the way to Chicago.
It might.
You may, about 5 miles out of Chicago, you may switch to another interstate, but
Yeah, it follows Highway 31.
right.
Basically, it mirrors Highway 31, but it takes you out of the small towns, which is a lot of what this song is about. Just sort of the, we're losing. The small towns got lost when the interstates were built.
Yeah, I know, and I love that. I love that story. It really does fascinate me so much. Oh, look at that guy.
I know.
So, like, he's on
Truffle
MTV
Shuffle,
just
like for 2 hours in a row.
trouble shuffle.
They got that mullet that John Cougar Mellencamp has.
So he's kind of like saving everybody. He's sort of like, look at this. We can get our small town life back. All you need is like a little rock and roll.
He dresses like the Fonz too.
Yeah.
Notice that. He doesn't wear a leather jacket that I'm aware of, but he has a white T-shirt and jeans. I like his guitar though.
Yeah.
And his sunglasses. He's sassy, isn't he?
He's very sassy.
Look at everybody dancing at that gas station.
You know, he dated Christy Brinkley for a while.
He did? Didn't everybody do that?
I think so, but he dated her late. Like, I mean, like I'm talking about like in 2010 or something.
Okay.
They were dating.
She always seemed nice.
Yeah, she did, didn't she?
Christy Turlington was always my fave, but Christy Brinkley seemed fun and nice.
Yeah.
She was like the fantasy girl on Vacation, which is another trip across America.
Exactly.
I think.
Oh man, there it goes.
I think with the bicentennial, everybody kind of had this reawakening of like Americana.
Yeah.
They kind of saw it slipping away a little bit. There's a really good chance to appreciate it.
Right.
And,
Very much.
You kind of see that for a few years.
Yeah.
And, a lot of like Life magazine or National Geographic would just sort of show like often in sort of a little bit more melancholy way, like here's a once great town, but it's really kind of having some hard times. Look at the pollution, blah blah blah. Here's the factory,
Yeah.
and it's kind of an awesome. God, I love looking through old National Geographics.
Yeah. So Paul McRae is
Paul.
watching us right now.
I like Paul.
Yeah, he was commenting on the video we were watching.
Oh,
just
really?
now.
Has he seen it? Was he familiar with it?
I'm sure he is. I don't
Can he
know.
call in?
I don't know if he can call in or not.
Call in. We'll put you on speakerphone, Paul.
He said Dave would have been totally into Bob's Beauties in the glory days of The Price is Right.
Oh, they were a little too much for me, but I know what he's talking about. I know what he's talking about.
Didn't he like sleep with some of Bob's Beauties?
Probably. I met Vanna White once at the World of Wheels.
Oh, was she super nice to you?
She was nice. I mean, she was as nice as somebody can just kind of be to a little kid, in a line to get Vanna White's autograph. But she autographed a little thing that was some kind of like vitamin supplement or something.
Oh, really?
That she was also kind of. So it was a little advertisement sort of thing that she autographed. I probably still have it someplace.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere I have the Birmingham Batman's autograph.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You told me that whole
I
story.
rode with him one day.
Tell the people that story. The Birmingham Batman was a guy who was on That's Incredible.
Yeah, That's Incredible, or Real People or something. And he had this souped up pimp car that he drove around saving people in. He would, like, if you were broken down on the side of the road in Birmingham and he saw you, he'd pull over and give you a ride, give you drinks. He had a drink machine that had Shastas in it, and so he'd give you a drink and cool you off and get you where you're going. But the car was like this tripped out thing. I remember there was a Atari in it and a megaphone and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
like big. There was like a home stereo kind of just ramrodded into the console. And one day I was in Homewood with my buddy Eric Thomas. We were in 6th grade, and he pulled into the. We'd seen him several times around town. We're like, "Oh my god, look at that car!" Because we'd never seen art cars like that before. But we saw him pull into the gas station. His name was Willie.
Yeah, yeah, Willie, not Loman, but
no. But we ran over to him and I was familiar enough with him, and he's a friendly guy, and I'd seen him on TV, and so we said, "Hey, how are you?" And he said, "Hey," and it's like, "Can we ride around in the car?" And so he rode us around the block, and we were a block away from our house, so we pulled in front. The thing had like sirens and lights, so of course everybody in the neighborhood came out when he pulled up, because we'd jump in strangers' cars to ride around, of course. And so all the parents were sending their kids away in this car.
The man just pulled up and just in his Batmobile and just said, "Hop on in, kids."
That's what we said. Can we jump in with you? And so he rode all of us around. Tim Rocks, Sean, Elizabeth, and me, and Eric Thomas. So we all just rode in. I sat in the front seat and I talked to the megaphone, and he ended up. He gave us all like signed autograph things with a bunch. They were just Xeroxes with some photos and a bunch of typed out facts about him. Like the Birmingham Batman car has this, and just all that kind of stuff. And he signed it for us and took off. It's almost like meeting the Lone Ranger, and he gives you a silver bullet. But so we I took that autograph to school the next day to prove that I rode with the Batman. Wow. And he ended up, I don't know, 6 months, a year later, he ended up dying in his garage.
Yeah, I think it was...
he left his car running. I don't think it was a suicide.
It kind of did sound like a suicide, yeah, because the story that I heard is that he was, I think it's on the Birmingham Wiki. I think it just basically says he was found dead in his garage.
Yeah, where the engine was running and the fumes overcame him.
Right.
There's a That's Incredible piece on it.
Yeah, I know. I'm putting that on right now, actually.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, here's the That's Incredible piece. Yeah, this is a really big deal.
And the funny thing about the Birmingham Batman's cars is it's got all these stickers on it that tells you about all the chicks he picked up. And they're like, one sweet chocolate Yolanda and stuff like that. There's like tons of them on there. Like the Velvet Machine Wanda or whatever, be. Well, he's kind of a randy fellow too.
So yeah, when I was like a kid, I really wanted to be Batman, and I just thought it would be so cool to just kind of run around like Batman and solve crimes. And I never really understood the sort of underlying idea of Batman, of the actual value he could give you, other than just being like a good moral person. But what Batman tries to teach you is like financial advice, really. Like that's what the comics are about. Like It's like, yeah, save up money and you can be like Bruce Wayne and you can have all this freedom to do whatever you want to do.
Oh, okay.
So Bruce Wayne is kind of like a prototypical Dave Ramsey.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's about the most unique, unplagiarized take I've ever heard.
I could write a paper about it. But like, yeah, but what
Look, that's I-65.
I know it is. Yeah, but what he's really teaching
That's
you
where
though.
that Eddie Murphy head was photographed right around there.
But yeah, what Birmingham Batman is so cool about is like this is how you become Batman when you're an adult. You just, ride around and help people.
Mm-hmm.
And just, give them some gas and
he was awesome. He rode around with extra gas and jumper cables and like a tire pump and also like an Atari and a cooler and a big stereo and a PA and siren.
It makes me so sad that that the Birmingham Batmobile died with him, because this would be such an amazing thing to just be preserved. I think
it was preserved.
Oh, what? Where?
It was at the fairgrounds for forever, and I have pictures of it.
Oh, I remember.
But then they moved it to Old Car Heaven, where I'm not sure where it is now, but I think it's still at Old Car Heaven.
Old Car Heaven, like the bar?
Yeah, it's a bar down by the railroad tracks.
It's not still there. I thought, did that place close down? Is it still there?
I'm sure this vehicle exists. This vehicle does not, has not been lost. Now, I actually did some work with that guy, the guy that's on TV right now.
Frank Day.
He called me about shooting something, and Brian shot it for me. It was something like, and this was like maybe 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about him, but so, we shot the piece. It was a little corporate film thing. And later I was watching this, and it's like, wait a minute, is that him? Because I saw him in the piece that I was editing. And so I emailed him. It's like, hey, I was watching this weird question. But he was like, yeah, that's me. That was my family. He worked, we loved him. He worked at our company. And it was like, well, that's kind of cool, because I told a little story to him, and it was just kind of a cool little thing that, just the weirdness of this crazy city.
Man, Wayne Cox, do you know him?
No, but I bet I know somebody that does.
Where is Fire Station number 7? Where is that?
I don't know. My granddad was in the ones in Inslee, which I think was 16. But,
it's so crazy, because there has been so little. I know where that is. That's at Green Springs.
That's Green Springs
Yeah.
Avenue.
Yeah, there is. I used to live right over there. There is so little video that exists of Birmingham on a national scale.
But
you know what I mean?
But there is some, if you were to watch like Stay Hungry.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. There's like Stay Hungry. Paul said, okay, and I knew that this was right. So Old Car Heaven is now Ghost Train.
Okay.
I thought so, because I actually went to Ghost Train the other night, and I remember I was thinking about Old Car Heaven, but I never went to Old Car Heaven.
Yeah, we went to the
but I kind of knew an idea of where it was. So, yeah. I never go to bars and breweries in Birmingham, so
it's hard.
except when I'm like, just with friends playing trivia and things like that, but which happens very rarely. But yeah, so... so Paul, to the best of your knowledge, is the Birmingham Batman car at Ghost Train? I doubt it is.
Last time I saw it was there, but it was at the fairgrounds for forever, and you could drive up and see it in a window. And I have photos of it there, and I have some photos of it at Old Car Heaven. As of where it is right now, I don't know, but I know they didn't throw it away.
Right.
I mean, they're just not going to do that.
Yeah,
what an incredible piece of folk.
Oh man, yeah. Paul said no, it's not there anymore. I bet if you contacted the people who had Old Car Heaven, they'd know where it is.
John Morse might know.
John Morse probably does. John Morse knows everything.
John Morse will likely know where it is. They should put it in the Smithsonian, really.
Or at least in the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, or we have some museums here. The Birmingham Art Museum.
Oh my God!
Should put it there.
Totally.
That'd be nice.
Oh my God!
Yeah. Put it there with all the art and things like that.
Why not? Is the control chair still there?
I don't know. But yeah, Stay Hungry is fascinating to me. When you watch that movie, Stay Hungry, from like 1975 or something like that.
Jeff Bridges, Sally Field, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the
Yeah.
Terminator.
Arnold Schwarzenegger won like a Golden Globe for it.
Really?
He did. He won a Golden Globe for like most promising newcomer.
Wow. Well, they were right about that.
Yeah. They were totally right about that.
Yeah,
I know.
Somebody knew what they were doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Better than
amazing.
Hercules in New York. I am here for the party.
Yeah, it's amazing to me because nobody knows anything about Stay Hungry, but it was made by the same people who made Easy Rider. Not Dennis Hopper, but like the same company who also made Head. As a matter of fact, did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was the same company that made Head.
Jack Nicholson
yeah.
had a big part in Head, and he was an Easy Rider.
Right.
So,
yeah. But it's made by, oh gosh, what was the name of the company? I can't remember, but yeah, it was like Bob Rafelson directed it. He was the same guy who directed like 5 Easy Pieces with Nicholson. And Stay Hungry was kind of the movie that ruined the company.
Really?
So this is, yeah, it was
that's that big old house up
a
on,
movie that they wanted to make, and it
that
just
Star Wars font.
but they made it from a novel, and it just turned out to be a gigantic flop because nobody wants to see a movie about weightlifters in Birmingham, Alabama. But yeah, it had Jeff Bridges right after he was off of like Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. Sally Field, like right before she did Norma Ray.
Oh, really? And
Robert
it was right
Englund.
After,
Yeah.
Right after Smokey and the Bandit, wasn't it?
It was. Well, no, right before Smokey and the Bandit.
Okay, a couple of years before.
Yeah.
When was it? 73?
Oh, God, no, like 75.
Okay, Smokey and the Bandit was like, what, 78?
77.
Like okay.
Or was it? No.
It was late 70s.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's a fascinating movie because it's like Birmingham, like there's the Mountain Brook Country Club.
Yeah, and they use that house over on Jemison Parkway or whatever.
Yeah.
That big sort of Mount Vernon looking house that's
right
over there.
And when like they go downtown, you actually see people walking around downtown Birmingham.
Yeah, and you see those awesome like orange and silver buses that they had.
And I think the big showdown that they have, like the Mr. Universe competition, takes place in the Lyric Theater.
There's a picture of them on the Lyric, and it's all these muscle men on the fire escape. The fire escape sort of makes this big X shape, and there's sort of muscle men and all the points of it.
Right.
And if you have the wider shot of that, you can totally see a little marquee down at the bottom that says Al Goldstein presents something. And Al Goldstein was a porn producer, and he also published Screw magazine.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, so the Lyric was a porn theater that they just kind of gloss over in the whole history of the Lyric.
No, yeah, the Lyric Theater was definitely a porn theater in the 1970s. I think for a brief.
There's those buses.
Yeah. So like, there's all these people downtown Birmingham. I mean, can you imagine that now?
With the Terminator and the dude running around together at last.
Oh, there it is.
And
Lyric
Frog.
Theater. Yeah.
No, I knew people that worked on it.
Oh, do you?
And they would, like, oh man, what's her name? I'll think of it a little bit. Karen Graffio worked on it in some capacity. She was a photography teacher in Birmingham, and she would say like, "Ooh, let's go watch him eat," because apparently he ate like an animal.
Who, Schwarzenegger?
No, Jeff Bridges.
Oh, Jeff Bridges.
No, Schwarzenegger. Sally Field.
So wait, Schwarzenegger was just there, and they just wanted to see him like eat food.
They're on the set, and he apparently just gobbled down enormous amounts of food all the time. So it was sort of somewhat entertaining, I guess, to go and watch the spectacle of him. I'm sure eating just buckets of fried chicken or whatever crap.
Yeah, because like even though
you could see the marquee really well on that one.
I know, I that's what I was showing it. I was showing it to the nice people at home.
And there's like 9 weightlifter guys.
Mm-hmm. And so yeah, that staircase is no longer there. Obviously, it hasn't been there in years, because the fire department probably said take that down.
Oh man.
But yeah, like but you can still see the outline of it. And yeah, there's the billboard right there. Look at that. Al Goldstein, Felicity Split. Woo. It happened in Hollywood. It happened in Hollywood is the name of the movie that's showing at that particular moment.
I need to look those up. Look up Felicity Split and see what it says about that.
I'm afraid to look that up on my Google.
Do it.
Dave.
Do it.
Why do you always make me look up porn?
I don't make you every time
I'm not going to type in Felicity Split. I will say it happened in Hollywood.
Oh my God.
Once upon a time. 1937.
No, that's not
That's
it.
not it.
Okay, I'm looking up Felicity Splits on my phone. If I can find my phone. Let's see.
Yeah. I don't know.
Stein presents Felicity Splits. Okay.
I hope our one viewer Paul is enjoying the show. Yeah. So yeah, while Dave is looking up Felicity Split, I'll just let Paul know and anybody else who may be watching this in the future that I had a plan to do a podcast tonight, and I was totally ready for that plan, and then Dave came over.
Oh my goodness!
And we decided to hook up, and we've been talking now for about an hour live, and yeah, my plan was to go live and do a live show at 10 o'clock. So I just decided to go ahead and just like let Dave talk, and
oh my goodness,
we'll just see where it goes. I mean, it's just kind of, relaxed, and I do have plans to do formal shows from here on out.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Felicity Split decided to make a career in the porno movie business. But it's a long way to get anywhere, and she has to use all of her assets to convince producers of her talent. That's the...
Oh, so it's like her autobiography?
I don't know. Actually, it's... I don't know what all this is. That might be it happened in Hollywood. Yeah. I'm not sure what all this is.
It is just so incredibly mind-boggling that Birmingham in the 1970s would have been like just any other city in the entire country with a porno theater in the middle of downtown. I mean, every city was like that.
Aware of.
Huh?
We had 3 that I'm aware of.
Yeah, like
the Screening Room, the Lyric at some point, and the Jupiter Theater, which I always love that name. Yeah. Jupiter Theater.
It's just amazing because like the way that cities in America define themselves, like in the 1970s, they all seemed to be following the lead of like New York, where you would just have this formerly bustling downtown that has just completely given itself over to the adult film industry. Yes. And Birmingham was no different. I mean, you'd think in the South it would have been different, but it wasn't. I mean, they just, I don't know. Like, and then by the time I was actually coming downtown, which would have been like beginning in the late 1980s, mid to late 1980s, because my dad worked downtown Birmingham. Mm-hmm. All of that was gone. The Lyric Theater wasn't even a porno theater anymore. It was just completely closed. Just gone, yeah. And it didn't open again until recently, just a few years ago.
And that's as a sort of like a remodeled, kind of renovated classic thing to sort of compete against the Alabama Theater.
Well, it's not competing. I think they're all run by the same people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's like the board runs it. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to talk and sound like an idiot, but no, like, I mean, I know that they opened up the Lyric Theater to kind of there was a big nonprofit restoration project that went into opening it back up, and they did an amazing job. I remember going there with Jessica back in 2010, in the summer of 2010. And you could just go to the Alabama Theater and you could talk to somebody there, and they would actually walk you across the street and let you walk through the Lyric Theater.
Yeah, I remember doing that a couple of times.
Yeah. And so it was the restoration was led by the same people.
Yeah, I remember Glennie Brock had a lot to do with that.
Right.
I kicked myself because they offered me all the voice of the theater sound systems.
Yeah.
And I just did not have a place to keep speaker cabinets as big as this room at the time.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh man, I wish I could have. I wish I would have just said, do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Because that would be great to have all that electro voice kind of equipment.
Have you been to any shows at the Lyric Theater?
Yeah, we had to record a thing one time. We had to record this gigantic choir and orchestra one night, and I've never been to a show, but I've had to like deal with shows there a couple times. But
oh, what you mean, like
technical, like shoot it or something. But I've never like gone in that I'm aware of and just watched a show. I thought it was do at the Alabama.
I thought it was crazy because I was I was at driving by the Lyric Theater one night about a year or so ago, and the marquee on the sign said like an evening of John Denver.
Oh,
And so I guess it was like a John Denver tribute concert or whatever. But they had like 5 or 6 police cars outside, and they were like they had those metal detectors. They were like going searching everybody coming into the theater. It was a very bizarre scene and a weird sign of the times that we're in 2023, and people going to a John Denver concert have to be searched.
Wouldn't it be great if? Oh my God, yeah. Wouldn't it be great if, like, at the end the lights went down and they came up purple and smoke came out and a headless man came out and sang like country roads,
Did he get decapitated?
I think they found his head.
Oh God, no! I didn't know that.
They either found his head
terrible.
or they didn't find his head in his airplane accident.
Tell you what, if you want to have like a fun night, read the John Denver Wikipedia article.
Man, I used to I loved him. He's sort of the sound of cereal commercials. And,
okay.
And I used to think he's sort of this kind of cool but sort of dorky guy. Mm-hmm. But then I saw him on the PMRC. Is that what it was? PRMC or whatever? What
is the PMRC?
Tipper Gore had
the Parents Music Resource Council or something.
Okay, yeah. He was up there testifying with Frank Zappa and Dee Snider of Twisted Sister.
Yeah.
And kind of seeing that, Motley Crue was like, dude, he is way cooler than I thought he would be. Because they kind of came in and really, Dee Snider has a really good piece about that, where it's like they thought I was going to come in and be this dumbass metal long-haired guy, and they had no idea that he was articulate and savvy, and there he is. Oh my God!
Yeah,
it's a great pleasure to be with you, and I apologize for running in and out. I seem to be testifying and briefing many people here in Capitol Hill today, and it causes.
But see, like John Denver lived a much crazier life than Frank Zappa and Dee Snider combined. Dee Snider's kind of famously a teetotaler. But John Denver would get like high on cocaine. He would go over to his ex-wife's house, like split up, like take a chainsaw out. I mean, kind of like in that movie Shortcuts.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was insane. So, like, John Denver coming here to the PMRC and being, like, the clean-cut guy, the guy that you can take home to mama, was very ironic because Dee Snider and Frank Zappa were much, much more restrained in their private lives than John Denver was.
Yeah. Blue Ridge Mountains. He wrote that song with Bill Danoff.
Yeah.
I think that's how you pronounce it. Who sang... who also wrote Afternoon Delight, which is a beautiful song.
I'm not a big fan of it, but...
Oh, man, it just... That song makes me so happy.
It's about sex in the afternoon.
I love how the radio just played it like it was the Lawrence Welk Show. And it was such a, like, stealth... dirty song, and I so appreciate that about that.
So I used to talk to my students when I was teaching 10th graders. We would always do a unit every year on rhetoric, on kind of different ways of persuading people with arguments. And I would always show them the Dee Snider testimony to the PMRC. And I would always show them just a clip, kind of like a thumbnail of just Dee Snider, and asking the students to sort of make like some presuppositions about what Dee Snider might be talking about, or what his private life is like, and basically just making face value assumptions.
Yeah, sort of like that old Reddit thing of like first impressions.
Exactly. And then I would ask them. I would play the Dee Snider testimony. And man, the students were so incredibly captivating. If you've ever watched that testimony from beginning to end, the argument that he makes is just so fascinating. And he's talking about, like, he kind of goes through each one of Tipper Gore's complaints about his music, saying that it, like, glorifies Satanism and like eating children and all that
Eating
stuff.
children.
Exactly. And then at one point,
He holds a big bone on the album cover, but I don't think it's a children's bone.
But at then one point, D. Snyder sort of says, like, all of this is meant to be a satirization of cartoon violence. As growing up, I was a big fan of Bugs Bunny. And he was saying that, like, in many of my music videos, I have used clips from my extensive collection of cartoons. And
I love D. Snyder sitting there watching Daffy Duck.
I know.
With a
It's
shotgun
just
blowing his bill off or whatever.
I know, it's just the funniest thing ever, but it's very interesting. It is. So yeah. No, I love this PMRC test. When is this? Like about 19?
It's about 1987, maybe?
Yeah.
89?
Yeah.
Maybe even 1992 or something. I mean, it's a little later.
I think it's later than
died
that.
around 93.
Yeah.
So I'm look it up. See what it is. See what the.
I mean, I guess we could. We have the internet, but yeah.
I'm guessing about. I think it came out like right around when the Two Live Crew thing started coming out, probably like right after that.
I would like to acknowledge.
And I'm not even sure what Tipper Gore's little argument was. I'm not. From what I understand, they just said like, can we just have a rating system of albums? But
Yeah, I think that's all it was.
Which
I think it got blown way out of
sort
proportion.
Fair enough, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like there might be some shit on this album that you don't really want your little kids to hear. It's up to you, but just fair warning kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it just got.
Were...
I think it got blown way out of proportion. I think it was the same thing as like the when they started having the hearings on the video game rating board or system back in, I guess that was around 94. It was just simply a few senators being like, maybe we should just talk about regulating this a little bit, and because the music industry and the video game industry, they're not going to stop until they make as much money as they possibly can. And they were just saying like, maybe as Democrats, because that's what Democrats do. They sort of think about how government might solve the problem. They step in and they just said, maybe we should regulate this. And the music industry, just like the video game industry, reached a deal with them. And they said, well, why don't please just let us try regulating ourselves. And that's what happened. And it's been fantastic ever since. I mean, honestly, the music industry and the video game industry have done amazing jobs of policing themselves. I may be wrong, but as far as I know,
I haven't heard any complaints.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's like there haven't been any complaints.
You can do anything you want.
Right.
I've heard things that's like,
yeah.
Remember when people would push boundaries and it would be like shocking and be like, oh my God.
I know.
And
when's the last time somebody like really pushed a boundary?
Sometimes in commercials and things, you can really see people. I haven't seen it in a while, but you could tell that they're like really trying to push buttons with something. Yeah. It might be like, maybe a commercial that has like an interracial couple. It's like, ooh, but also nobody cares anymore.
Yeah. That's like super innocent. I mean, that's, yeah.
But sometimes
like, there's just not, I mean, when I was growing up, I remember two specific instances just with television that were really big. There was the first gay kiss ever shown on television. That was on Spin City in the year like 1996. And then there was Ellen coming out of the closet, which would have been like 97 or 98.
All I hear is Gomer Pyle going, surprise, surprise, surprise.
So was everybody at home watching that and be like,
no,
oh my God.
You couldn't go home. You had to go down to the Civic Center to watch it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, are you serious?
Yeah,
wait, what?
Because
wait.
Birmingham's like, we're not going to show that satanic devil gay crap.
Wait a second. Wait, go back.
No,
on this.
it's when.
Are you saying whenever Goober was on the Andy Griffith Show?
No, when Ellen had the big coming out thing.
Oh, right.
Like all the TV stations said, we're not going to show this.
Okay.
And
I thought you were talking about Goober being like,
no,
to go down to the Civic Center to watch the Andy Griffith Show. Okay.
No.
Okay, sorry.
That's just like Ellen coming out.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh, did she?
So, but But they showed that on. I mean, I remember watching it on television though.
Well,
so
you probably
could
saw
watch
it on a rerun, but when it aired, there was some kind of thing about it. I mean, look it up. It's
okay.
some kind of thing about like in Birmingham, you had to go watch it on a big live feed or something at the Civic Center.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
And this was like what, I don't know, like 1990
because
or
I was
or something.
No, this was like 1997. I mean, this was late.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They refused to show that.
I didn't know that. Okay, I need to
look it up. Make sure I'm right about that.
Well, I mean, I won't. I don't know how I would look that up.
Just
right
look
now.
up Ellen coming out in Birmingham.
Okay.
Just see if there's. I'm pretty sure it was that one. I didn't watch the show, but I just that's sort of.
Yeah, I didn't watch the show when it was on. Okay. So here's an article on AL.com from like 2011. On this day in 1997, Ellen DeGeneres was preparing to hit the big 4-0, along with starring on her own sitcom Ellen. For months leading up to the epic episode, DeGeneres thwarted attempts to get her to divulge information regarding both her own sexuality, all that stuff. Birmingham ABC affiliate WBMA refused to air the episode. Okay. In response, ABC sent a special satellite feed of the show to a community center in Birmingham. So you're right. You remember that correctly. Yeah, I didn't watch the show live.
Because you couldn't.
But yeah, I mean, I never watched the show. That's the thing. I never watched Ellen.
Apparently it was like a big deal. Like a whole bunch of people went. But.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting because I do remember all the fanfare around it. Like I remember watching that show Access Hollywood, and they were sort of talking. They had sent camera crews because in Los Angeles there were like really big watch parties. Like people renting out theaters to watch the episode, and the name of the episode was called the Puppy episode. That was the whole thing, and Laura Dern guest stars on it. I guess as her friend. Who's sort of it's weird because that was like a huge show, a really huge ratings grabber, and then the show for some reason ended like a few months later, and I don't know if it was just because of all the backlash or because the show really wasn't that good to begin with, but I don't know.
Sometimes big sort of stunt episodes can kind of just sort of. Well, that was cool, and then you sort of just don't have much.
It's kind of like, is that jumping
whatever.
the shark or what? But yeah, ever since that episode, and of course, Ellen recovered so well. Of course, she had a talk show for something like 20 years, and then
I heard she was mean.
Well, yeah, and then she got oddly canceled for being mean. Like rumors that she was mean to some staff members, which is like
all kinds of things. But I don't know.
It's the weirdest thing. Okay. Oh, Paul just came up with an excellent comment.
Oh, what did he say?
He said, even in 2019, PBS in Alabama refused to show an episode of Arthur in the 22nd season due to a gay teacher being played by Jane Lynch. Wow. So Jane Lynch, the actress. She's in like in all the Christopher Guest movies and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, she's gay, but I thought Arthur was a cartoon.
Arthur is a cartoon. It's like
so I guess she voiced the
thing or something.
He's like an anteater or a mole. He's a mole.
That was like a goat or a rabbit or something.
I think he's a rabbit.
What is he? Is he a rabbit?
What animal is Arthur? That's a really good trivia question. I have no idea.
Because there's sort of at one point this trend. I think it started with was it dog?
He's an anteater.
What was that show that came on? It was a cartoon that came on before Harriet the Spy from Nickelodeon, and
Harriet the Spy wasn't a television show.
It was a movie.
Yeah, it was a movie.
But if you saw the movie, which I always liked that book, so I saw the movie.
Yeah,
a cartoon for a Nickelodeon show because Nickelodeon produced Harriet the Spy, and they had this cartoon and it was like not dog but something like that.
Yeah.
And anyway, it started sort of this trend of like
Aardvark.
Everybody's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Everybody's like different, like this guy's blue, this guy's yellow, this guy's pink, this guy's green, that kind of a thing. And I always thought that was kind of a strange sort of
Yeah,
thing.
that was Nickelodeon's way of teaching kids about racial diversity.
Okay.
Is by having all the characters be different.
Yeah, what was it?
Colors.
Wasn't I don't
Yeah.
think it was Doug. It was like
Yeah.
I'll think of it. There was a mean girl.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
anyway, beautiful cartoon though.
Well, yeah. I mean, The Simpsons is the same way, but yeah, the Doug show, like Roger Klotz was always mean, and I think he was green.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was a green character.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Paul says that Arthur is a show about an aardvark.
Okay, that makes sense. I do remember something about that now.
But that's fascinating. So is even in 2019, PBS, like the one blue dot among all of the red programming in Alabama,
Yeah, seriously.
refused to show. I mean, I guess they just had outrage from parents groups and things like that. But I don't know. It's just so weird. I just feel like
I wonder if there's some kind of weird like bylaw and a grant somebody wrote saying I'll leave you like $2 million, but you better not ever show that thing, or you have to forfeit it sevenfold.
I don't know. I think I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting because not having children, I think that we're sort of past everything. Thank you. I think that we're sort of past past being
so
offended and all
weathered
that.
to everything. We're
But-
just, it's like,
Yeah.
there was a time where like, what was a big deal? Television history. Mike and Carol Brady sleep in the same bed.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I think Lucy and Ricky toward the end of I Love Lucy were sleeping in the same bed, weren't
I
they?
still always wonder about this twin. Like, even when I was a little kid, it's like, it's so weird. What is that? Is that? I just didn't get it
Yeah.
when I was little.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we're sort of in a post-offended society, and then people get offended about things like all the time. And I think it's just, when I was teaching, it's absolutely true. It's like it's weird. The things that you think of as an adult is just like innocuous and just so normal. Other parents, like when I was teaching a film class, and the first movie that I had on the syllabus for the year was Psycho. And I was showing this to a bunch of 8th graders. Maybe they may have been a little bit too young for Psycho. But most of the parents are totally cool with it. They're like, yeah, show Psycho.
Yeah.
I mean, because, by the time these kids are 14, most of them have had phones since they were probably in 4th or 5th grade.
Yeah.
And so by the time they're 15, they know their stuff. And so Psycho is just, I think of it as a great way to teach good filmmaking. I don't think of it as anything that is mildly offensive or anything like that. But nevertheless, I did have a teacher, a parent who happened to be one of my coworkers who was teaching, and his son was in my class. And he said, I know you want to show Psycho, and I think that's a good idea, but maybe my son isn't ready for it. Could you possibly show him something else? And it was a totally legitimate concern that he had. I mean, I was like, I saw Psycho for the first time when I was 14, so when I was in the 8th grade, and I didn't think anything of it. At the time, I mean, I thought it was a great film, and just scary enough to kind of get me curious and interested. But these days I don't think of like Psycho as anything that might show a 14-year-old anything that they haven't seen before on television.
Times a million.
I mean, it's like these kids see. I mean, kids are watching The Walking Dead. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen an episode of The Walking Dead, but it's like ridiculously grisly. This is stuff that you wouldn't have been able to see on cable 20 years ago.
But I will make a little bit of a case for there's a certain value to a lot of the abstractness of some of the earlier violence that didn't necessarily happen on screen, but that was highly suggested and unquantifiable. I would say a lot of that's almost just like worse and more disturbing than just sticking something on screen.
Yeah. No, yeah, of course. I mean, Psycho works really well because you never see like knife penetration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you even comically kind of see the knife like sort of miss the skin and kind of go by it.
Yeah, it's just kind of like.
Yeah. It's creating like, because the Bernard Herrmann score sounds like a knife anyway. You know, it sounds like slashing knives. You just sort of like, your mind psychologically puts it together that it's a lot more scary than it really is.
Yeah, there was a episode of a comic book called Two-Fisted Tales, and it had these two dudes in the jungle, and they were these army guys that I guess they got parachuted down or something like that. But anyway, they got caught by some jungle tribe.
Yeah,
and they were held prisoner in this like tent thing, and they took one out, and they just tortured him all night. And the dude just sat in the tent, and all he heard was like, "Whoa!" And he just had to sit there, and they never showed what they were doing. You just saw him, just like his eyes, just and just saw the letters, "Wow!" The whole time, for panel after panel, and you're like, what in the world are they doing to him? And the whole thing was like, he just has to sit there and saying, "Oh my God, I'm next," and that's like way worse than being able to see it and quantify what's going on. There's no quantification. It's just
that's like the Deer Hunter. I mean, that's exactly what happens in the Deer Hunter. Because if you remember that scene where they're playing Russian roulette.
Yeah,
there's a scene where like, Robert De Niro and like John Savage and all them, they're like in the cage, and all they hear is just like terrible screams and the occasional gunshot.
Stole it from Two-Fisted Tales.
Yeah. Michael Cimino read a bunch of comic books in preparation for Two-Fisted Tales.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I probably did. Yeah, I could tell you which one it was if I saw him, but something about the Javaro tribe or something, but
but that's like 100% true though, like because and I think Hitchcock knew that really well, and all the directors of the 70s who were influenced by Hitchcock, namely Spielberg, they knew exactly what they were doing. Like they knew that like sort of suggesting things was a lot scarier than actually showing them. It's like why you only see the shark about 50 minutes into Jaws. And I sort of we were watching Boogie Nights the other night, and I was sort of like Dirk Diggler's penis is kind of like the shark in Jaws, where everybody's constantly sort of reacting to it and hearing about it,
oh my God.
And then by the end of the movie it's been built up so much, and it's kind of like
there it is.
There,
just right there. Did you look at it? Because we'll hold on to it for another 2 minutes.
Exactly. So, like, I have this total belief that the director of Boogie Nights was influenced by Jaws. He was like, "Let's take that shark and make it a penis."
5.5 tons of them. You're gonna need a bigger vagina.
Thanks. I can no longer play this for my high school film students.
Oh, you can make it go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pumpkin spice pallies, which is Jason and Alex and me. We were talking about.
I want to be a part of this group.
You have to get an iPhone because that's how we have to talk.
Do we really want to be like separating ourselves by technology like that?
Well, we don't, but the technology separates itself.
Whatever.
But we'll figure it out.
Okay.
But anyway, we were talking about the Toxic Avenger, and it wasn't even like the awfulness of what was on screen that we were talking about. We were talking about like we were all just affected about how just mean and cruel everybody was. The violence on screen was it was a lot, and it was kind of shocking and all, but just the attitudes of it, just being everybody was just acting ugly all the time. Beyond what you ever saw. And I sort of saw that, and that's what disturbed us the most when we saw it when we were little kids. And Toxic Avenger is probably one of the most whitewashed properties I've ever seen in my entire life. When all
meaning it became like a Saturday morning cartoon show and all that.
Like watching that, it's like, oh look, there's movies.
Yeah.
Let's go see this. Mom and Dad, of course you can get that, honey.
That's
We love
why.
that cartoon.
That's why I never got into those trauma movies.
Yeah, I
because
never did
because they
either.
are so mean and bitter and
just-
cynical, and
yeah,
there's
they're
no
just
room
awful.
for like happiness in them, and they're just like, you know what, if you're happy in this world, then you die, and
And,
you know,
and like, hey,
yeah,
can you make
yeah.
somebody else's life even more miserable? Some miserable creature, can you make it worse for them?
No.
That's your motivation. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's Melvin the mop boy. He works at the gym, and everybody's just ugly. But when I saw the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly when I was in 4th grade
yeah,
on TV, I was just struck by how cruel everybody was. Just cruel and brutal.
yeah.
Like, oh, here's the guy that just walks in, massacres a whole family, and leaves the mom just in the desert. And
But
then
it's not
goes and
like-
kills the guy that hired him.
Yeah, but it's not like scene after scene after scene. It's like
There's some niceness.
there are
is
characters
some-
in that movie and in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly that are 100% redeemable. Like, at the end of the day, like Blondie, all he wants is the money. Tuco, all he wants is the money. So for Angel Eyes. But Blondie and Tuco still form this relationship of understanding where even if they're going to be kind of ruthless with each other, there's still like a humanity between them.
Well, that was kind of the thing that we were
Yeah.
talking about. We were sort of talking about, like, there's those little bits that all these just brutal people are trying to maybe even hide or obscure. Like, the whole idea, like, Tuco's proudly talking about how his brother so warmly received him and blah, blah, blah. But really they were fighting, and Blondie saw that. And, the whole time they're riding away from the place, Tuco's like, yeah, my brother, he always loves to see me, blah, blah, blah. And Blondie's just like, you could just tell, it's like, yeah, I saw what happened. But you know what? I'm not going to bring it up. And it's like, after a good meal, there's nothing like a good cigar. And then you hear, dun, 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 and the stagecoach takes off, and they're gone. They're off, furthering, and it's like, oh my God, that is incredible.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
just
it's an incredible movie.
Yeah, even like Angel Eyes, like
Yeah.
when Angel Eyes, like, no, I'm not gonna do what we did to Tuco. Would you talk? No, probably not.
Yeah.
I know he would. You're wondering, like, would he have made a square deal? He did always keep his promises. If he and Blondie said, okay, we're going together. I know the name of the thing. Tuco told you the name of the grave, blah, 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 or whatever. Or Tuco told you the name of the cemetery. I know the name of the grave. Let's go. Would they be square with each other? They might. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
No, I think like I think at the end of the day, like Blondie would have had compassion for Tuco. I think he would have
did.
shared with him in the money.
He did
But I
share
thi-
it with them in the money.
Well, yeah, technically, but he also kind of like ties his hands up.
Well,
and-
he shot him down.
Yeah.
Tuco will get out, but he also, in a weird mechanical way, kind of made it a little bit of a delay because he knew that Tuco was probably kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
And just, Tuco, there's your share, man, fair and square. I'm going to be away from you when you get it because,
Right.
you're going to want mine or something.
Yeah, it was very, very smart on Blondie. Like he valued him as a human being, but he didn't trust him
He
as a
didn't
human
kill him.
being.
He could have
Yeah.
Totally could have killed him,
Yeah.
but he didn't.
Yeah, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a great movie. I don't know if I would say it remotely in the same breath, in the same sentence, maybe not even in the same lifetime as The Toxic Avenger.
Well,
But we started we somehow lumped them into the same category.
Well, there's just a
I'm not
lot
sure.
of ugliness in each of them, but
Yeah.
they treat the ugliness different, and there's some
Right.
redemption in the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Right.
and also some more dimensional sides.
Well, I think
And,
the reason why The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is such an important Western film is, number one, it wasn't made by Americans. It was made by like Americans kind of looking at America from the outside and saying to America, I also think during the Vietnam period, being like, look at what you're doing to yourself.
yeah, I always love that line.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen so many men wasted so badly.
Exactly.
And they're just
Yeah, and I think like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is one of the great Western films is because it really also was one of the first Western films that didn't have John Wayne in it to show the West as it really was. It's just like this fatalist place. that is just devoid of hope and humanity.
Yeah.
Where everybody is like truly left to fend for themselves as like the animals that they are.
Yeah.
And like it's a movie that perfectly shows that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also hopeful at the very end of the movie because it's, you know, Clint Eastwood is like the rugged individual.
He keeps his promise.
He does, and he keeps his promise. And at the end of the day, it's sort of like nobody is going to save the West except the individual, right? It's not going to be the government. It's not going to be your friends, your neighbors, your police. It's going to be just you. You're the only one that's going to be able to take this wild place and tame it. And yeah, it's a great movie. I haven't seen it in many years.
Oh, we should
I
watch
think
it.
that's what
Let's
it's
do it in the
like.
backyard, so.
Sure. Yeah,
Well,
we
that's
should watch it. I used to watch me and
Paul,
Jason.
can you come watch it with us, please?
Yeah, Paul, come over and watch The Good, the Bad,
Yeah,
and the
we'll
Ugly
tell you
with us.
what-
He's like the unofficial co-host tonight. Or
Oh,
the
he
official
kinda-
co-host. He's just silent.
He kind of is. He's sort of
He's like Hal 9000.
Yeah. You know, I have
Yeah.
a picture of me taken through HAL 9000's
I know.
POV lens. Dan and me both have those.
Yeah.
And
Did I get that number right? It is Hal 9000, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I thought so.
it's 2001 HAL 9000.
Yeah, me and Jason used to make chili all the time and watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That sounds
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, we would do it usually like in, I don't know, September or sometime around there.
My sister and I used to watch it
Yeah.
the night before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
She would. When
that's a
our
good time
lives-
of the year to watch it.
Yeah, when our lives kind of worked out a little bit, our little
Yeah.
routine was like she'd come over
Yeah.
and we'd watch that, and we did it for 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
We'd watch it on TV because it has a nice Thanksgiving palette,
Yeah.
and then in the morning we'd get out and we'd go to Chilton County where we have some land, and we'd you know, hike around, shoot some rifles and whatnot, and then go to my grandma's for Thanksgiving and just talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. God, I
So
love that movie.
Paul said, "I'm there for it." Great idea. So
Okay,
Paul's,
the way that this works is we have a garage, and we painted a wall white, so we can shine movies on it with a projector.
yeah.
The only thing about it is, in the summer, you don't know if the night's going to be nice or miserable. You know, hot, humid, sticky,
Yeah.
and so you have to kind of call it when you you know, it's like, oh, it's a nice night, let's do it. So it's hard to say, hey, we're gonna drive across town right now because we're gonna start this movie in about 15 minutes. So it's hard to invite people. But as the weather gets theoretically more predictable, it's easier to say, like, we're gonna do this on Thursday.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do this soon, Paul, and we'll call you.
Yeah. And there's a cabin trip coming up too, but Paul can't go because he's got to go see a concert of some kind.
What concert is he gonna see?
I don't know. I think he's going to see Hanson.
Hanson? I thought he's a Swiftie. What is he doing?
I don't know. Swiftie.
There's
Why do
probably
they
some-
call themselves Swifties?
Oh,
The Taylor Swift
It
fans.
reminds me of like Tom Swifties.
Yeah, Tom Swifties.
What were
Or it
those?
sounds like some kind of like a really quick sexual act done in the back seat of a car in a
But in,
Shoney's
like,
parking lot.
1930.
Hey, you want to?
Old chap, did you get a Swiftie?
Chef, did you get a Swiftie? Were you lucky enough?
I've got more than that.
Yeah. So I think Paul is going to see Hanson or something like
I like
New
Mbop.
Kids on the Block or Furnace Fest.
I like Mbop. I thought that was a cool song. My only problem with Hanson was I wish the little tiny kid, had short hair instead of having like cool long hair like his cool older brothers. I think that would have worked.
I never put that much thought into it.
I did. It was like Mbop is kind of a good song. I hope Paul enjoys that show.
You know, Mbop was a good song, and
Mbop.
Mbop. And Paul should be not ashamed at all that he went to go see Hanson. You know, because Hanson was, back in the day, they were a very good band. There were 3 of them.
I think it was one of those things where, you know, when your dad does your science fair project for you?
Yeah.
I think it was kind of like that. I think it was one of those things where, like, their dad was like the producer of somebody else, and it's like, hey, my kids are of an age to be a young Jackson 3.
Probably, but I think they were actually good musicians. You know, they were brothers, and
Yeah.
they were brothers.
Oh.
What, you didn't know that?
I thought they were white.
So, shut up. So, I thought that they were actually brothers to Beck, because Beck's last name is Hansen.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought, and they kind of looked like Beck.
I don't know.
So I thought that Beck was off producing like weird alternative rock music, and Hansen was off doing like mbop.
I feel like I would know that if that was true.
It's not true, but it seemed so true. And like, that's the thing, is that in 1996, really before it was easy to go on the internet and verify these things, you had no idea. So you really basically only could go on what others told you and what you yourself believed. So this is what I'm wondering, because this is kind of what I do on my podcast, is I kind of wonder things. I like ask myself these big cultural questions at 11 o'clock at night, and then I don't answer them because they're how are we living in what they call a post-fact society, where we don't believe anything that anybody tells us, even though we've never at any point in human history had more access to knowledge than we do right now. Yet in 1996, you just took you did, if somebody told you that Beck was Hansen's brother, you would be like, I don't think that's true, and you would just be okay with that fact. Well, but yeah, like these days, like anybody could tell you anything at all, and you would go to Google and immediately verify it.
One thing that I've been fascinated by, well, it's because we all have the same tools now. There's an interesting book by John Stossel, who I think worked for like 2020 or something.
Yeah, he was the guy that got slapped by that wrestler.
By a wrestler. He had all kinds of sort of expose journalism that I always appreciated. But he would talk about, sort of situations like that where, nightly news used to be a very, like hallowed ground. It's like, okay, even though this channel has news, it's gonna shift gears a little bit and be very unbiased. And at some point, somebody learned, like, why do we have to be unbiased? And I'd say that was probably like late 90s. Mm-hmm. And you started getting kind of these more fringe newses, look at that guy. Fringe news, or like, Rush Limbaugh was probably a big deal with that, because, my parents listened to that all day, and all I heard just suddenly in my life, I just always heard, and then the Clintons, blah, 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 and just heard that for like 4 freaking hours a day. Mm-hmm. And you're like, it was just it was different, but I also didn't really know that it was different. Oh, there he goes. He's about to get hit. Now, I heard, there's a little story behind that. I heard his boss or whatever said, like, there's going to be this dude talking to you. It's going to mess up the whole deal. Mm-hmm. So let him have it, is what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not. Well, anyway, when the internet first started becoming like a ubiquitous thing and something that people, normal people started seeing and could get their home, it was very interesting to look at the marketing. Mm-hmm. There was even some with like some of the people from Friends in it, like Jennifer Aniston, where they're like, the internet can do that? Yes, and more, kind of a thing.
Yeah, that was the Windows 95 video with Jennifer Aniston and Matthew Perry.
Yeah.
I've shown that on the show before.
Okay.
And talked about it, yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway, it was just sort of, there was this great hope that, like, finally, enlightenment. But it's funny how it's our Tower of Babel now.
100%.
Like,
the Tower of Babel is the most, I tried to read the Bible. I got about 20 pages in before giving up. But the thing about it is like all the really important Bible stories are in the first 20 pages. There's
a lot of cool stuff going on. Yeah,
I know. The Tower of Babel is in Genesis, and it is. It's all about how.
I can't reach it.
Oh, you can't reach it? Okay.
I'm having to.
All right.
There we go.
But yeah, the Tower of Babel is people wanting to get closer to God, and so they build a big tower and try to get to the heavens, and God strikes them down by making them all speak different languages, and that's like the destruction of society. And that's exactly what the internet is. Yeah. The internet makes everybody speak different languages.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can't understand the language that people are speaking, then you go to a place that does. And so...
And that's your echo chamber.
100%. And that's the thing. Like, in 1996, when somebody told me that Beck was related to the Hanson brothers, and I was like, that's weird. They're all making completely different music. How could they possibly be related? I guess they must be. I don't know. Somebody told me, right? And so there was no way. I didn't think about going onto the internet to verify this information. I just kind of relied on my friend. Because the thing about it is we all were speaking the same exact language as each other, right? And I had no reason to know who Hanson was, except that my sister was in the house with me, okay? So my sister was a really big fan of Hanson. And I didn't listen to any of their music voluntarily, but it was just always in the house.
But Bob's as catchy of a song as it could be.
Yeah, it was a very catchy song. But anyway, I mean, I don't know. I just I remember wondering aloud in church one day, I wonder if they're related.
Aloud in church?
Yeah. I wonder if Beck and Hanson are related.
Did you shout it out?
I did. And
Lord,
somebody said, yeah, they must be. And that was the day that the Mississippi squirrel went berserk in the town of Pascagoula.
Where Jimmy Buffett is from.
All right, so we got to go pretty soon, okay? But we will talk about Jimmy Buffett, okay? So what do you know about Jimmy Buffett?
Not much.
No, me neither.
One of my favorite things is there's an episode of 30 Rock that has Jimmy Buffett-like people, and brilliantly written. Somehow it turns out the presidential vote or something comes down to something like somehow Jenna Malone is like gonna be the deciding factor on which side she takes, and there's this Jimmy Buffett-like cult called the Crab Catchers that exude a certain lifestyle that have embraced Jenna Malone.
So we're gonna play a game, okay? And I'm making this up off the top of my head, so it may not go well. But we're gonna play a game here.
Right.
I'm gonna say the name of a song, and you tell me if it's a real Jimmy Buffett song.
Oh my god, I'm gonna fail.
Okay. All right. So hold on.
I'm gonna get two right.
Okay. All right. Here they are. Okay. Pina Coladaberg. Is that a real Jimmy Buffett song or a fake Jimmy? Pina Coladaberg.
I'm gonna just say no, but I don't know.
No, Pina Coladaberg is not a song. A Margarita. Okay, Margaritaville.
I do know that one.
Okay, Margaritaville is a real song because they have a lot of there's a video on YouTube of somebody who goes all around the country visiting every Margaritaville in the country.
Oh, like the airport kind of bar thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Margaritaville is usually it's like Bubba Gump Shrimp. It's usually like a themed restaurant, a novelty restaurant that you might find at like the Universal Studios, like City Walk or whatever.
Yeah, I see them at like airports every now and then.
Right.
It's like, oh, Margaritaville, let's get a cheeseburger. And you have to order a...
Yeah.
I'd like one cheeseburger in paradise, please, but hold the pickles.
Yeah. All right, here's another one. You tell me if it's a real Jimmy Buffett song or not. Parrot on My Shoulder. Parrot on My Shoulder.
No, it's just a little too dry, but I don't know. Okay. Is it?
No, it's a fake song. Okay. I just made it up. Okay. All right.
There's a funny Penn and Teller thing about parrots on shoulders.
Okay. All right, here's another one. All right, ready? Okay. A pirate looks at 40.
That might be real.
That is real.
Huh?
Live at the Record Plant, 1974. Okay.
Well, that's That could be a bootleg.
Okay, really. All right. Okay, here's another one. Boss thinks I'm wasted.
That sounds real. And if it's not real, You should so write that song.
Boss thinks I'm wasted.
Boss thinks I'm wasted. He don't know what I tasted, but I can tell you right now it was good.
All right, that is not a real Jimmy Buffett
It
song.
should
I just
be
made
a
it
real
up.
Mike Booty song. It should be a Mike Booty song.
Okay.
You know what? I saw
Yeah.
I saw a little video on the internet
Yeah.
called "Boss Thinks I'm Wasted." There was this teacher.
Oh my gosh, that was the most tragic thing I've ever
It
seen.
reminded me of Mike.
A
And-
teacher shows up drunk for the first day of school.
And the boss thinks she was wasted.
Okay.
So they got the cops come in, and they're like, "So what you drinking?" Nothing. And boy, does it go downhill from there.
All right, here's another one. Okay, are you ready? Good hesitations.
Good. Hesitate. That sounds.
Good hesitations.
That's so fucked up. That sounds real.
It's fake. I just made
Oh.
it up. I just made it up. All right, you're doing terrible at this, but
No,
I'm
no,
doing really well
I'm-
at creating fake Jimmy Buffett songs.
I'm half and half, but you're a great AI for
I should be.
Jimmy Buffett songs. But Boss Thinks I'm Wasted is
Uh-huh.
awesome.
Okay, so Paul just said a really good Jimmy Buffett song that wasn't a Jimmy Buffett song is "Escape," the Pina Colada song.
Wait a
That was
minute.
who was that? Warren, I can't remember.
No, is that Barry Manilow?
No, it's not Barry Manilow. It's
Did he have a piano?
Rupert Holmes. Rupert Holmes is the one who
Is that the one
sang.
that's like, "Do you like pina colada?"
If you
Is that
like
the
Pina
one?
Colada
That's not Barry Manilow.
or getting caught in the rain. No, that's not.
Oh,
No. All right. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do
the
one
imagery of Margaritaville is
more. Yeah.
so wonderful. You know what's awesome about it? It's not a good time,
No.
and that's what I like about it. There's conflict in Margaritaville, and we were sort of talking a lot. We were sitting in the spa today. We got massages today, and
Happy endings.
and I wish. But there was a we were reading magazines. I was sort of sitting in the little foyer area, holding room, reading magazines, and just looking at everybody smiling. This is my house, blah blah blah, and just thinking like, I hate magazines. I hate magazine articles. Nobody has conflict. Nobody has trials. I mean, they might. They'd be like, well, we just couldn't figure out a color. You know, they're basically like what they called on the internet about 10 years ago, white people problems.
Yeah.
And
What
just-
magazines were you reading again?
Just like there was some kind of thing about like Homewood Living or something.
Oh, well, you're reading the wrong magazines.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
granted, it wasn't like a national magazine. It was just sort of like a local thing.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, do people like magazine articles?
Not that I know of. You always hear about people writing freelance for magazines.
Uh-huh.
Like a lot of like authors, that's kind of how they make their day-to-day living, is just by publishing magazine articles. But nobody that I know of reads magazines, gets magazine subscriptions. It seems to me like the only time I ever see people reading magazines is like when they're waiting to get a haircut.
Yeah, but it's like when I look at them and
Yeah.
just kind of peruse through the articles or whatever, there's just like, well, it was a struggle to buy the house, and we had to like really watch our finances, but we got a good deal with the bank, and we bought the house of our dreams, and it's just sort of like, there's no like, oh my God, we lived on the street, we lost a kid to disease while we saved up. You know, there's no good story. And
Well, I want to create a Midnight Citizen magazine.
you should. I think it'd be good. I think it'd be good.
Yeah, that's all about me kind of creating the perfect studio.
Well,
and there will be a lot of conflict on
There
that.
is a lot of conflict.
There will be. There will be.
Hold
Okay, are we still playing the game?
on. Do one more.
Do you want to try a couple more or one
Do
more?
a couple more.
Okay. All right, here's one.
Are you looking at a big list of Jimmy Buffett
I
songs?
am. I
Okay.
am. All right, Banana Republics.
I missed that store. That doesn't sound like a Jimmy Buffett song.
That is a real Jimmy Buffett song.
My lord.
Banana Republics. Okay. Here's the next one. J. Cruz.
All these remind me of Jason.
J. Cruz.
J. Cruise.
like a cruise ship.
When you're doing a J.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's not real, then it should be a real one.
Yeah, J. Cruise is what I just made up.
Okay, you should so have boss don't. What was it? Boss don't know I'm wasted.
Boss don't know I'm drinking. Or
Boss don't know
I'm
wasted, and J. Cruise is so gonna be your single. Your double A.
Oh yeah,
single.
totally. Boss don't know I'm wasted, and J. Cruise.
Garrett Scone.
Garrett Scone. Bring that back. Yeah, definitely.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna write that song tonight.
I love the idea of like, you know how Jimmy Buffett was like kind of the guy who wrote all about the beach, and he kind of created a whole lifestyle. I want to create like a whole lifestyle and world around like the mall of the 1990s.
I think you should. I think the
wanna do
mall
that.
with the radio stations that advertise for the mall.
Yeah, I want to make a song about like Manchu walks. Or,
you know, Orange Julius.
Suncoast Video.
Orange Julius.
Oh man, don't pirate my Suncoast, man. Yeah, that'd be good.
The Suncoast.
Yeah.
Like the Sun Rays.
Mm-hmm.
Sun Rays is a really good band. Have you ever heard of them?
No, I have not.
Oh man, you should look into the Sun Rays.
Is
Jason
that like
loves them.
spelled SUNRAS?
RAYS.
RAYS. Okay.
The
I
Sun
thought it
Rays.
was different. Okay. All right. Well, I'll try that out.
Yeah, you'll love it.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, we got to wrap up here.
Paul, it's been great having you, buddy.
Yeah, definitely. Paul says, well, he hasn't said anything in a while.
Paul, we've been sipping a little scotch called Monkey Shoulder.
Yeah,
tonight.
I know you. As always happens, you bring
God.
over like a little bit of
That
scotch.
is an embarrassing amount, and
I know you brought over a little bit of scotch, and we drank like damn near the whole bottle.
I'm not even gonna bring that home.
This is embarrassing.
I'm not even gonna bring.
Oh no,
that
take it home. If you leave it here, I'm gonna drink all of it tonight.
That's okay. If it's here, I can
Yeah.
say, yeah, we had a couple of sips, Steffi.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna leave that here for a few days,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I'll bring home what's left.
Yeah.
And, I'm not about to. But I don't feel like I drink that much.
Oh well, I mean, I'll keep it, and I'll tell you what, I'll bring it to you.
Excellent.
Okay, definitely.
Paul, have a good night, buddy.
Yeah, definitely.
And let's do the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah,
soon.
definitely. Make some chili and watch the good, the bad, and the ugly.
That is a fantastic idea.
And cigars.
Does Paul do cigars?
Yeah.
I think he does
Paul, do you do cigars? I can't remember.
Is he on? Is he still on?
I caught the name as you poured it. Obviously, it's a terrible scotch. Yeah, no, obviously, it's a terrible scotch.
Wait, what is he talking about?
No, he's joking.
Oh.
Monkey Shoulder, the original blended malt Scotch whiskey.
Blended just means like, well, we had a few.
This
so we
is
mixed
blended in Pell City, Alabama.
No, it's not. You a lie.
In the lush waters of Lake Logan Martin.
He's a lie. That's a Scottish Scotch. That's the real.
It's a Scottish Scotch. Does
Scotch,
all Scotch have to come from Scotland?
I don't know, but
is that a law? Just like all bourbon has to come from Kentucky?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's something I wouldn't mind looking into.
But no, to answer your question, excuse me, Paul loves Scotch, right, and loves cigars.
Oh, there we go.
Paul has invited me over many a time and given me free cigars.
Well, let's return the favor in the next 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
When it's got to get nice enough to where we can just sort of plan on it, knowing that and Paul's got to be nimble enough to be like, I can do it Thursday, Friday, or
and
Saturday.
I will say, by the way, Paul is watching with Jody.
Oh, is Jody there?
You know Jody, yeah.
Of course I know Jody.
Yeah, Paul's wonderful wife. Yeah.
Jody and Paul would be surprised at how much we mention Jody in just our casual conversation around the house. We love Jody.
Y'all just go around the house talking about Jody
No,
all day?
we'll often talk about Jody. It's like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So one time, Alex, it was Christmas Eve, and Alex said, hey, do you mind if I came over tonight? It's like, yeah, sure. And it's like, do you mind if I brought like 12 people at midnight? It's like, sure.
Oh, that was Christmas a couple of years ago, right?
A couple of years ago.
Yeah,
It was Christmas night.
Yeah,
And Jody came by.
Yeah.
And along with a million other people, and we had to get dining room chairs dragged out of the backyard. And it was one of the nicest Christmases. And I kick myself for Stephanie just not being around to enjoy one of the first kind of backyard nights.
Yeah.
with a massive crowd, and Jody was there just being charming and sweet.
Yeah, that was a fantastic night. I remember that incredibly well.
Oh, that was such a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got home at like 3:30.
Yeah, we did
Yeah,
stay up till
something
about
like
3
that,
or 4 in the morning, and
Yeah.
I was when Alex called, like I don't know, around 11 or 11:30. I was actually in bed, so it's like, yeah, man, let's do it. Oh,
Isn't that crazy that,
I'll
like,
rise
you
and
know,
shine.
because when I think back on that night, I don't remember a single thing we talked about. We probably talked about,
Oh, we talked
I
about
think
all
like
kinds of
licorice
things.
pizza had just come out, and so some of us were maybe talking about that. But isn't it amazing though when you think about these really long nights that you have with people where you talk long into the night? You don't remember a single thing
I
that you
do.
talked about, but you just remember about the times.
I do remember the
Oh,
times.
you actually remember what we talked
I
about?
remember talking about, lots of film things, you
Yeah.
know, just sort of
Yeah.
film theories and music theories, and just kind of talking about, just things about our lives.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Christmas, kind of what'd you do at Christmas, what'd you do at Christmas growing up. I'm always interested in what people's birthdays were like when they were like 6, 8, 9, 10,
Yeah.
12
Yeah.
kind of thing. I'm always interested in that.
Yeah.
And what their Christmases were like, because
Yeah.
Christmas is, for the most part, with people that I know, it's generally been a very positive thing.
Mhm.
And we talked about Jody. I did reiterate a lot about how I wish Stephanie could have been here, and
Yeah.
it was just a great time. Oh
Yeah.
my god!
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have some photos from it.
Definitely. All right. Well, we got a record of what we talked about tonight, so that's good.
And Paul was with us. I'm so glad about
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. We should do this again.
that. Yeah, we'll do it.
I know if it's going to be hard to do a podcast again by myself.
Oh, you'll be fine.
I know. So anyway, yeah, but we'll do more of these things. We're sort of building up a podcast studio over at your place. That's what we're
that's
kind of
one thing
hoping
that
to do, is just to create like an actual studio over there that's kind of not weird and rudimentary like my office.
Yeah,
I mean,
where you can go there and
yeah.
have a
Yeah,
you don't have to manage chaos for an hour.
exactly. All right, man. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here tonight on the Midnight Citizen, such as it was. This has been I didn't mean it for it to be like this tonight, but it turned out really well. Dave was just going to come over to get like a drive from me of some audio, and we ended up just talking long into the night. So this
Well,
is
we
great.
do that a lot. We do
Yeah,
that.
we do. That usually happens.
And Paul kind of came in with some magic too. He was like a little, like Rod from The Price is Right, or Andy Dick, or whoever it was on.
Is there any parting advice you want to give the nice people at home?
You talking to Paul?
Yeah. Or anybody. I mean, I'm going to put this up on the internet for people to listen to for
I guess
years to come. So
yeah, I guess just
yeah.
talk hard.
Okay. All right. Good night. Thank you so much. And we'll fade the music up as we go out.